Did you know the world has almost ended at least 5 times? I'm not talking about asteroid movies or alien invasions. I'm talking about real life, heart-stopping moments when humanity was just one button push away from nuclear annihilation. These are the stories you were never told. The close calls that could have wiped us all off the map. Buckle up, because today we're diving into the terrifying history of nuclear near-miss. Our first story takes us back to October 27th, 1962. Right in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis. The world was on a knife's edge. A U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Beale, dropped depth charges on a Soviet submarine, the B-59, trying to force it to surface. What the Americans didn't know was that this submarine was armed with a nuclear torpedo, and its captain was ready to use it. The captain, Valentin Savitsky, believed war had already broken out and ordered the torpedo armed. Launching it required the consent of 3 senior officers. 2 of them, including Savitsky, said yes. The world's fate came down to one man, Vasily Arkhipov. He was the flotilla commander and second-in-command on the sub. Despite the immense pressure and the chaotic conditions inside the hot, cramped submarine, Arkhipov refused to authorize the launch. He argued with the captain, calmed him down, and convinced him to surface. One man's courage and clear-headedness literally saved the world from a nuclear exchange that would have been unstoppable. We all owe our lives to Vasily Arkhipov, a hero most of us have never even heard of. Let's fast forward to November 9th, 1979. It's 3 a.m. at NORAD, North America's Aerospace Defense Command. Suddenly, screens light up with a terrifying sight. A massive, all-out Soviet nuclear missile launch. Hundreds, then thousands of missiles are detected, heading straight for the United States. Panic erupts. The National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski is woken up with the news. He's just moments away from waking President Carter to authorize a full-scale retaliatory strike. For 6 agonizing minutes, the world teetered on the brink. U.S. bombers were scrambled, missile crews were put on high alert, and the end seemed terrifyingly real. Just as Brzezinski was about to make that fateful call to the president, a second call came through. It was a false alarm. Someone had accidentally run a training simulation tape on the live, operational warning system. A training tape. A simple, stupid mistake. Almost tricked the United States into starting World War III. A chilling reminder of how easily our complex systems can fail, and how thin the line is between peace and total destruction. And it happened again, less than a year later. On June 3rd, 1980, the same nightmare scenario played out. At 2:25 a.m., screens at NORAD and the Pentagon lit up again, showing incoming Soviet submarine-launched missiles. The alert went out. Bomber crews raced to their planes, and for a terrifying few minutes, the apocalypse seemed to be happening. Then, just as suddenly, the warnings vanished. A few minutes later, Te Werabak, this time showing ICBMs launched from the Soviet mainland. The system was erratic and unbelievable, which thankfully bought them some time. An investigation later found the cause: a faulty computer chip in a communications device. A single 46-cent piece of hardware was sending random numbers to the display system, which the computers interpreted as a missile launch. For 3 days, the system kept flashing false warnings until the faulty chip was finally identified and replaced. A 46-cent chip almost cost us everything. Imagine that. Our next brush with disaster takes us to the heart of the Soviet Union. On September 26, 1983, the Cold War was at its peak. Tensions were sky-high after the Soviets shot down a Korean passenger jet. In a secret bunker near Moscow, Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov was the man on duty at the Soviet Nuclear Early Warning Center. Just after midnight, the alarms blared. The system reported a single missile launch from the United States, heading for the Soviet Union. Then another, and another. Soon, the system was reporting 5 incoming missiles. Protocol was clear. Report the attack to his superiors, who would almost certainly launch a massive counterattack. The fate of the world was in his hands. But something felt wrong to Petrov. His gut told him it wasn't real. A full-scale U.S. attack would involve hundreds, even thousands of missiles. Not who's 5. He reasoned it had to be a system malfunction. Against all orders, and every protocol, he reported it as a false alarm. Was right. Satellites had mistaken the sun's reflection off high-altitude clouds for missile launches. Petrov's decision, based on a hunch and a deep understanding of the enemy's strategy, went against the machine. He was later reprimanded for not following procedure. But like Arkhipov, Stanislav Petrov is another unsung hero who saved the world by simply saying no. And the danger wasn't just from false alarms. On January 24th, 1961, a B-52 bomber carrying 2 powerful hydrogen bombs broke apart in midair over Goldsboro, North Carolina. As the plane disintegrated, its payload was released. One bomb's parachute deployed, and it landed relatively gently in a field. The other bomb, however, plummeted to the ground at high speed, burying itself deep in the mud. The terrifying part is what investigators discovered later. The bomb that landed softly had gone through almost its entire arming sequence. Out of 6 safety mechanisms designed to prevent accidental detonation, 5 had failed. Only a single SMP, low voltage switch, prevented a nuclear explosion 260 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. A single switch. If that one switch had failed, a huge portion of the U.S. East Coast, including Washington, D.C., New York, and Philadelphia, would have been blanketed in deadly radioactive fallout. Millions could have died. It's a miracle that it didn't detonate. It shows that even with multiple safeguards, we're always just one failure away from an unimaginable catastrophe. These stories aren't science fiction. They are documented historical events. They show us how incredibly lucky we've been. We've placed our survival in the hands of complex, fallible computer systems and stressed-out human beings operating under immense pressure. We were saved not by brilliant strategy or perfect technology, but by the courage of individuals who questioned their orders, by dumb luck, and by faulty 46-cent chips that made warnings unbelievable. It's a sobering thought that our existence is hung by such a slender thread so many times. The question isn't just how we survived these moments, but how we can ensure we survive the next one. As long as these weapons exist, the danger of a mistake, a malfunction, or a miscalculation remains very real.